Hi, I'm Nick, and as you can see, I have a YouTube channel. I've been working on it for the past year, and I want to talk about it. This isn't going to be a success story. This isn't about how to grow millions of subs. You can see my sub count. This isn't about that. No, this is a story about me. And that story has ups and downs, pride and jealousy, inspiration and nihilism. I hope that by the end you get something positive out of it. For me, well, let's get into it. The story of my channel actually begins much more than a year ago. It begins in August of 2022. You see, in that point in time, I had just recently graduated university. I'd gotten my first real job, a first real work job with Excel, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, the whole jazz. And for the first time in my life, a friend of mine, who was my age, had passed away. In those couple months between me submitting my last university assignment and August, I had gone through a lot of change. I mean, for the first time in my life, I no longer was looking to be in school or was currently in school. I had no more school left for me to do. On top of my real job, basically all of the friends that I had built in university, I was no longer talking to because of that break at COVID. I just did not keep up communication with any of them. And when fourth year had started back up, well, I just couldn't really connect with them again. It was like too much had changed since we had last spoke, and it really made things difficult. So by August, I had no real friends whatsoever, other than thankfully I had my girlfriend and I had her friends. But for all purposes, other than her, I didn't really have anyone I could go to. And on top of all that, I had that sudden realization that everyone eventually makes, that I'm not as indestructible that I thought I was, that things can just happen in a moment's notice, that I don't really have that much control over my life. And with that happening, that existential crisis, and being incredibly lonely, and going through a major life change, not only graduating school, but also preparing to move into an apartment in my hometown because, well, my mom had sold her house while I was gone in university, and so I didn't have a place to go back to anymore. And you combine all of those things, and you can imagine that that would cause some problems for somebody. I feel like there's no way to describe a panic attack to somebody unless they've experienced it. It is the utmost expression of terror through your entire being. And there have been life-death situations I've been in that I was less scared of than I have been when I was in a panic attack. It is genuinely the most miserable experience, and most people will probably go through at least one in their lives, but if you haven't, I can tell you that it sucks incredibly, and if you do go through one, or you are going through them now, that it happens to a lot of other people, and you're not alone. For me, however, at this time, I was having 4 to 5 panic attacks a day. Sometimes I was having them multiple times an hour. This caused some problems, per se. Firstly, there's not a lot of quality in life to experiencing 4 to 5 panic attacks a day. And on top of that, that severely reduced my capacity to do, well, pretty much anything. I couldn't work because every time I started to try to work, very quickly a panic attack would ensue. I couldn't really sleep because when I'd go to bed, a panic attack would ensue. And obviously trying to avoid it, I kept trying to do things that would prevent these things from happening. So sometimes throughout the day, I would go outside thinking that, oh, if I just get more sun, maybe this will go away, using up as much energy I could throughout the day, and then staying up playing video games as much as I could all night, because I knew as soon as I laid down in the bed that the panic attacks would start again. It even reached the point where the police had to be called to my apartment because I was in such terrible condition. Very quickly, I could see this wasn't going to work. There are some strategies to get through panic attacks in the long term, such as exercise, more healthy eating, yoga, mindfulness. However, these are long-term solutions. These are things that you have to be doing consistently for days, weeks, or even months before there's significant progress. For me, I didn't have that kind of time. I needed much more instant results. Not just because I'm greedy, but because I had a job and I needed to get back to work as quickly as possible. I had taken a week off already to deal with this. However, I didn't have a lot of time to fix this problem before it would interfere with my ability to keep my job. So I had to start getting medicated for it. And as a side note, I want to say that through most of my life, I've always been a person who I would rather try to fix a problem on my own through like healthy eating, exercise, all that type of stuff before trying to go to medication. And if you're the same way and you're struggling, I'll let you know, you can do both. You can get medicated to prevent your constant suffering and then exercise and eat better while you're doing that. If anything, the medication makes it easier for you to treat your body better. So why am I telling you all this? I mean, what does this have anything to do with anything? Well, there was one night in August after I'd had a panic attack where I'd come up with the idea that I should make a YouTube channel about my mental health journey, essentially going from where I was at that point, unable to even work because of my panic attacks, to going back to where I was before and maybe even excelling beyond that. And I did record like one or two things while I was on a walk at 3 o'clock in the morning talking about my experience. I still have those videos. However, I'm not really interested in listening to those again. And I'm sure you can understand why, so those are likely never going to see the light of day. But the important thing is that I created a new YouTube channel, and I thought it'd be funny to be a little ironic. If the story is about me and me suffering from anxiety, well, why don't we call the channel Nick is Chilling? Because if you're anxious, you're obviously not chilling. And that's how the channel name came to be. I never did get to make those videos like I wanted to. I mean, a couple months passed and my anxiety got better to the point where I no longer needed the medication to prevent panic attacks. Work was going good. I was talking to my girlfriend a whole bunch. I had moved back to my hometown and I got to see my grandparents a whole bunch. And things were going pretty okay. Now here's the thing. You might not know this, but I'm a really big fan of this game called Dungeons and Dragons. I love talking to people about my ideas for either campaigns or rule changes or encounters or how the game should be played or DMing and all that type of stuff. I love talking about D&D, and if you get me into a conversation about D&D, I will basically talk nonstop until you tell me to shut up. At this point in time, basically the only person I have to talk to about Dungeons and Dragons is my girlfriend. And by March of 2023, I had kind of realized I had bored her to death about it. What was happening is that I would be watching a D&D YouTube video such as Dungeon Dudes or Crispy's Tavern or Ginny D, and then later I'd call her and then talk for at least an hour about the topics that I was listening to. If you're a super fan like I am, well, that's a totally fine thing to do. I would love to have a friend to just talk about D&D for hours and hours. However, she had only played in like a couple sessions and D&D wasn't like her super passion, so it was very clear that I was having an effect on our relationship because I was basically addicted to the D&D, and I needed a new outlet. And it just so happens that around the same time, me and my cousin were reminiscing about the old Minecraft videos me and him used to make. And we actually did try to record one Minecraft video, and it didn't really go too well. However, just by looking up some of the stuff I needed to do to record it, like OBS, I started to think, maybe I should try this out. Obviously not for Minecraft, but I really like D&D. I don't really have anyone to talk to about D&D, and this would be a great opportunity to have an outlet to talk about all the things I want to talk about without boring my girlfriend to death. And so at this point, I was trying to think of a name for this YouTube channel, and I looked back at the Nick is Chilling one that I had made, and I figured since this had absolutely nothing whatsoever other than a name, that I might as well use this channel, and I considered changing it to something more D&D themed, but everything I could think of felt just too cringy, and I thought, well, I already have a name. Why don't I just use that? And that's why this D&D channel is called Nick is Chilling. At some point in time, I'll probably reconnect it to like Chill Touch and like the cold damage of D&D. However, the origin behind it is that it is a ironic joke about me suffering from horrible anxiety. But now that I had a name, I had to start actually making videos. Luckily for me, I had a Blue Yeti that I had bought so that way I could play D&D online. I also had a Logitech webcam, which I cannot grab right now, but I'll like put a picture in the video of it. And I had a new computer that I had just recently bought in October as a treat for myself, and it was good enough to edit on. And I realized that I basically had all of the pieces I would need to record, edit, and upload YouTube videos. For the software, well, I used OBS to record because that was the most efficient way to record a webcam and a microphone at the same time. And it still is. I still use it to this day, even though I'm recording to a camcorder, because that means I don't have to sync it up. For editing, I use DaVinci because it's free and it works just as well as professional editing software. And for me, someone who went to film school, it makes more sense for me to use something that's just a little more above the bar than Movie Maker. And for thumbnails, I used Photopea because I wasn't interested in paying for a Photoshop subscription. And all the hardware I still use to this day, other than a Canon camcorder that I bought when I was 15, and I use that to record now. My first video was never meant to be good. In fact, I knew it was bad when I posted it. It was simply an experience of creating something and then releasing it to the world. In fact, an important part of that step was accepting that it could have been better. I have a whole bunch of experience of trying to do something and then doing a little bit of it for a couple months at best, and then giving up on it because I just don't have the motivation to do it anymore. And I didn't want this to be the case. I wanted YouTube to be something that I did rather consistently. And the important thing about doing something consistently is consistently finishing it. If I allowed myself to constantly delay releases of videos because I thought it could be better, well, a new video would never come out. You see this actually a lot with big YouTubers where they don't upload to their main channel for months because they get this idea of quality in their heads and how good of a YouTube video it needs to be. And then even though they're making like probably totally fine videos on like their side channel, they're so focused on making the perfect video that they just don't upload at all. And I didn't want to put myself in that situation. The problem with stat rolling in 5e, this was a script that was just a handful of point form notes that I had strung together and a PowerPoint that I had made for the visuals. At this point in time, I hadn't even thought it was a good idea to, turn on the lights in my apartment so that way I'm not sitting in the dark, only illuminated by my monitor. And on top of that, my hair had this weird floof thing going on because I had just come from like an hour-long walk on a super windy day, and that was the best I could make it normal before hitting the record button. The video was a mess, but it was my mess, and that mess was a thing that showed the world that I could create something, that I had something to say about Dungeons & Dragons. When I uploaded the video, I think I told one person to watch it, but that was it. I really didn't want anyone watching the videos who wasn't watching them because they wanted to enjoy them. I didn't want to have an inflated subscriber count of people who weren't interested in my content. I wanted people who watched D&D videos to find it. And on top of that, it helped that if no one knew that I was making YouTube videos and I gave up on it super quickly, well, I wouldn't have to embarrass myself with getting super into a project and then people asking me about it later and having to tell them that I had given up on it. The first couple videos got 10 or so views at first, which I was happy with. Quite frankly, I knew that the videos could be better and I was just working on improving them. So as long as people weren't watching them until they got good, I was fine with that. However, my cousin insisted that if I wanted the channel to grow, that what I should do is focus on doing content for people new to the game, introducing them to the game, introducing them to DMing. And so I decided to do that. I had an idea for a series of videos. I would call the series an Intro to D&D, and it would be my first series I'd ever create. The first video was simply called An Intro to D&D, Where to Begin. Within the first week, it got 50 views, which was the first time that had ever happened to me. And it was quite an exciting moment because it was from there that I saw that theoretical growth was possible. Although it was only 50 views, it also meant that I wasn't stuck at 10 to 15 views for the rest of my channel's lifespan until I gave up on it. It meant there was potentially more out there, that depending on what I made, more people could watch it. I should also point out that at this point in time, I didn't really have a schedule. I was just working on stuff at every moment of free time that I had, and as soon as something was done, I'd upload it. However, I also knew that this would become unsustainable pretty quickly, so I would need to come up with a schedule. First, I would have to finish my video, Intro to D&D, How to DM, and that would end off that Intro to D&D series, and then I could work on a schedule, and then that video got 100 views. 100 views at that time meant so much to me. Even today, 100 views means a lot. 100 people is a lot of people. And I feel like it's easy to forget that when you look at these big YouTubers who have in the tens of millions of views on their videos, or even more than that. But to me, just a guy voicing his opinions about D&D, I thought it was super cool that 100 people could click on a video that I had made and watch it for any amount of time. This motivated me more than anything else had before. I quickly put together a schedule, 2 videos a week, one on Mondays and one on Thursdays. And this was a schedule I'd follow for a while. The next couple videos I would make would do pretty well for themselves, getting in the good hundreds of views pretty consistently. As I was going into May, I knew I was staying at my girlfriend's place for a while, so I made 2 videos to upload while I was gone, and then I would work on a video while I was at her place and have that ready for the Monday. The first video was basically a news video talking about the new 1D&D update. That one took quite a lot of work because I actually had to read through the document and without playtesting, try to give a good idea of what a good opinion would be. That's just one of the reasons why I didn't do those again, because I don't think it's really fair to judge a game mechanic that you haven't played before. And then the second video was more of a return to form to me. It was focused on teaching people how to role play, at a little bit of like playing into a critical role thing to try to get more attention. I figured that this would get a couple hundred views. I thought the 1D&D video would probably end up doing better just because of the relevancy at that point. And as the week went on, the 1D&D video came out, and I checked my YouTube Studio app, and it did not. That video took 11 days to get 10 views. I still think to this day it's sitting at like 15 views, which really killed that motivation. I thought that I understood the algorithm. I thought I knew what was going on, and I thought I was taking advantage of something clever, and it did not work. But at that point, I thought, okay, you know what? This isn't really what I do. Maybe news videos just aren't as popular as other content, like the stuff that I do. I should focus on the stuff that I'm currently doing and just ignore that. That was a mistake, not worry about it. And if anything, that was proven most true the night my next video came out. At this point, I was actively trying to convince myself to not look at the views for the Thursday video because I'd seen how brutal the Monday video had been, and I thought, man, I don't know if this is gonna be good. I don't know if that affected it. But right before I was gonna go to bed, without even thinking, I just hit the button to open it. And I saw 600 views. The most views I'd ever gotten on any video before. And every time I swiped up, the views just kept getting higher and higher and higher, which was insane to me. If the intro to D&D video made me more motivated than ever before, this made me even more motivated than that. I was writing the script for my next video on a piece of paper just because I had no computer to use at the time. And then when I got back home, I recorded it, edited it, and then uploaded it. And I thought this video was gonna do pretty well. It kind of played into the same thing of like roleplay focus. This was about being an evil character. I thought people would be interested in it because, you know, evil characters, there's something that a lot of people bring up, but a lot of people describe a lot of problems with. So if I tried to make something that told you how to play an evil character without dealing with all the problems of having an evil character, then that might be something that people wanted to click on. That video got 10 views in 8 days. Yeah. Now, at this point, I was just confused. I didn't understand why that video didn't work. And even to this day, I don't really understand why that video did so poorly. I was going through a lot of emotions. I didn't understand the algorithm. I was upset that this video wasn't gonna do well. I already had to start thinking about the next one because I only had a couple day turnover for these videos. And I also recognized that a lot of my videos were getting shorter than I wanted them to be. Normally, my first videos were 11 minutes long, and I thought that was a good length for a video. I thought that if I could speak for 11 minutes, it kind of proved that I had enough to say that this was significant. And now my videos were sometimes 6 to 7 minutes long. And I think the issue why I was having those problems was because these videos were all in the same style. So I was having to come up with a new idea of something to talk about, of new advice I'd have to give twice a week. And I was running out of ideas, just not because there wasn't more to talk about, but because I couldn't think of new ideas faster than I needed them. So I needed to think of something else to use the Monday time slot for. At this point in time, I was watching a lot of Crispy's Tavern and Crit Crab. It was really good background noise while I was playing a video game, but it was also just fun to hear those RPG horror stories. And that gave me the idea, what if that's what I did on Mondays? Maybe I just found horror stories on Reddit and then I read them out loud, and then had a segment where I talked about what should have been done, why the problems existed, and that was the video. It was important to me that I had a significant segment of the video where I'm talking about the content rather than it just be me reading the story, because I already felt a little bit like this was just me taking stories from Reddit. I mean, it's what it was, but I wanted to make sure that there was stuff in there that was unique and interesting, and that it was something that, well, it was my own, because you can only hear my opinions from me. These videos were genuinely pretty fun to make. It wasn't like anything I was doing with the other videos I was making, and it was mostly just fun to wander around Skyrim to find good places to film the video background for, because genuinely, I never just found one of those online. I always went into FreeCam and did one on my own, because to me it was very important to do as much of my own as I could reasonably do. Even my first thumbnails, up until the How to DM video, every single image in my thumbnails is something that I created. Even the fire, that fire is cut out from a campfire photo I took. And from then on to this day, I also really tried to focus on making sure that when I was using images, I used those from Wizards of the Coast, because to me, I felt less bad using images that were owned by this big company, Wizards of the Coast Hasbro, and I felt worse using something from someone's DeviantArt and not asking for permission. Part of the fun of making videos is making them. I've never had any interest in getting an AI to write the script, using an AI voice, or paying an editor and essentially creating a passive YouTube channel. That's not the point, that's not the reason I do this. The reason I do this is because I like to create things, and so I want to be involved in as much of the creation process as possible. If I was a good artist, or if I was even capable of drawing a straight circle, a perfectly round circle, I would probably draw my own stuff for my thumbnails a lot of the time. Anyways, it's at this point that I decided I needed a consistent style for my thumbnails. I wanted it to be very obvious when you saw that my video in the corner of your eye, in the recommended or the watch next, that you could tell it was my video before you even looked at it. And I'd gotten that idea because I was watching a lot of Crispy's Tavern, and I noticed that I could always tell if there was a Crispy's Tavern video in my recommended because of the heavy use of purple in his thumbnails. So I basically stole the idea from him. Obviously, the way I tried to imitate it was much worse than the original. However, I did just copy that idea and then use it for a really long time. I've been getting better in Photoshop, however, at this point, I was still really new to it, and I could kind of only get the idea across where it's like, oh, well, he uses a lot of purple, so I'll just use a lot of blue. Yeah, the Reddit videos didn't really do that well ever, and after a while, I realized that it just took a lot more work to do these than it was worth it, and it wasn't really my passion. And on top of that, I felt a little weird about the whole using other people's Reddit stuff, and so I opted to try to find a new thing to do for the Monday time slot. I thought that this could be more for videos that I would never think of making otherwise. In this case, my first attempt was like a quiz video where I did online D&D quizzes and see how well I did. And after that week, I could never think of a good idea again, and I just stopped doing the Monday time slot. Which ended up being quite a good idea, because that just gave me a lot more time to work on the Thursday videos, or just give myself a break from creating videos when I wasn't in the mood for it. But something happened during the middle of all this that I haven't talked about yet. There's a video that came out, Why You Can't Find a Dungeon Master. The video was about me complaining about the amount of pressure that we often put on new dungeon masters, either intentionally or unintentionally, and how that affects people's ability to get into that part of the hobby, even if they would be quite good at it. When I made the video, I felt good about it. However, when that came out, that video, within a month, got 1,000 views. Technically, I think the roleplay video got to 1,000 views first. However, the Dungeon Master video continued to grow and grow and grow. The roleplay video eventually finally settled down, just under 5,000 views. The Dungeon Master video finally settled at 9.5 thousand. And on top of that, it netted me a whole bunch of more subscribers. At this point, things felt great. Having had 2 videos pop off like that, I knew that if I could just figure out why these videos did so well compared to my other videos, that I had a real chance of making something significant out of this. So that takes us all the way till about August, and around this time everyone is talking about Baldur's Gate 3 and how excited they are for it to come out. For me, I hear them talking about it, and I said something along the lines of, oh, like the Diablo? Not interested. Genuinely what my first impression was. It wasn't until about the day the game was supposed to come out that I actually look at the Steam page and get actually interested in the game. About 12 hours before it was supposed to come out, I bought it just because there's pre-order bonuses, and I figured, oh, I might as well get it if I'm buying it either way. And so 3 years of hype for many people got condensed for me into about 6 waking hours. At this time, I was actually at my girlfriend's, so I couldn't even play it on my PC. I had to play it on my Steam Deck. And once it was installed, I'm pretty sure I spent most of that week playing Baldur's Gate 3 instead of actually spending time with my girlfriend. I absolutely fell in love with the game. It really felt like, even just going through one playthrough, that I could see all the other pathways I could have taken and all the opportunities that were closed off based off the decisions I had made. There was so much about the game and its design that I felt like could relate to tabletop design that I knew I needed to make a video about it. But let's slow down. I'm a D&D channel, not a video game channel, so I should do about 2 videos on Baldur's Gate and then leave it alone. If I spend too much time on this, well, that's gonna change my audience, and that's not what I want. The first video ended up doing quite well. The next video that was supposed to come out was supposed to coincide right with the PS5 launch of the game. However, I ended up being a couple days late to that because I was moving in here with my girlfriend. But that was fine. I was fine. YouTube was doing well, and moving in with my girlfriend was a big step in our relationship, and overall, I didn't have much that I needed to worry about. At this time, it had been about 5 months since I uploaded an Intro to D&D video, and I wanted to improve on that concept. I felt like I wanted to do somewhat of a remake of that series, however, in this case, much more focused on the DM angle and pushing people to feel comfortable with DMing. I called it DM 101, and it was exactly that. It was just meant to be an onboarding for people who are either brand new to the game and need to be the person who DMs for their group, or people who have been playing for a long time but don't feel comfortable enough becoming a DM and showing them that it's actually a lot easier than most people give it credit for. I released the first video and it did quite well. After I released the second video though and it underperformed, it kind of caused me to look back at what I was doing and reevaluate some things. So from the start of my channel, I had always been uploading with a just good enough mentality. Get something to a state of completion, and if I had more time, make it better. However, if I didn't, just send it out and then make the next project better. And I was doing that, except I wasn't really ever making the next project better. Every single week, I was getting to the same point of completion and going, this is good enough, and then setting it to upload. However, like I said, I'm not growing. I'm not getting better at editing if I'm doing that. And the same was true for thumbnails. Each of my thumbnails had the same blue background template thing, and that wasn't making me get any better at thumbnails. So I decided I needed to do some changes. The major change was, at this point, I had totally scrapped that blue background template that I used, and from then on in, I was constantly changing how I was doing my thumbnails, other than a few minor things. So like you'll see, I generally have a blue border around my thumbnails now. And for certain types of videos, like the vampire and werewolf video have the same type of look. The top 5 videos, they have the same type of look. But generally, I'm doing different thumbnails for each video. And changing up the thumbnails worked really well for me. The next video on my channel got 250 views. The one after that, which was on a topic which I didn't think a lot of people would click on, got 500 views. And the video after that got more views than any other video on my channel, and was the first video, and I think as of now, the only video to ever surpass 10,000 views. Breaking the tens of thousands of views barrier felt so good. Having my most viewed video at 9,000 something views was genuinely painful because I knew it was so close to that barrier, but I just thought I was never going to surpass it. And then once I surpassed it, I went beyond it, and that felt so incredible. And all the comments that came in, I believe even like a YouTuber I watched at the time commented on that video, so that was super cool. And for the first time, I was achieving things that had really felt like an impossibility before. And that just made other things I wanted to achieve feel even more possible. And it's at this point, I think I made the biggest mistake of my channel, which was I looked at how much time was left in the year, and I looked at my sub count, and I realized that I could reasonably get the 500 subs at the end of the year. And I made that my goal. Before we get into why that was such a big problem for me, I want to talk a little bit about that video. There's something in it which makes me regret it being my biggest video. Obviously, I couldn't control it being my biggest video. However, there's one aspect of it that I am very unhappy is a part of it. And if I had noticed before I had uploaded it, I would have changed it. You see, at this point in time, I was experimenting with seeing what worked and what didn't. And one of the ways I was doing that was I was looking at other YouTubers and what they were doing and trying to experiment by pulling things from what they were doing and seeing what parts of what they did were successful. And so in this case, I remember seeing a Bob World Builder video on my page, and I liked the thumbnail. And from my memory, I didn't click on the video. However, the more I think about it, the less I trust my own memory on this. But the important thing is that I saw the idea and I saw the thumbnail and I was like, oh, well, I kind of like this about the idea and this about the thumbnail. I could do this and this instead. I feel like this would be better. And so I tried it. I ended up making this thumbnail. You can see between the two of them where I got my inspiration from, which isn't really the problem. Which was, if that was the only thing I pulled inspiration from, I would be defending it. I would say, look, it's just inspiration. It's just me experimenting with how bigger YouTubers make their thumbnails or come up with ideas. However, there's something else about the video that makes me unhappy with the whole thing. A couple days after I uploaded it, I was going through the comments and I saw one that looked like it was just a mean hate comment. I deleted it and was about to go on about my day, but then I thought about it for a second longer and I realized that it wasn't a hate comment that I deleted. It was genuine criticism, and I still feel shitty about that. What the person had said was, hey, your intro is directly copying Bob World Builder's video. And they were 100% right. Like I said before, I don't remember watching his video until after I had made my own. However, if you look at the beginning of mine and the beginning of his, I feel like I probably watched it and then just forgot that I ever did. Which, yeah, to this day, I still look at that video and I feel guilty about that because I should have come up with my own idea. I should have had my own thing going on. I should have actually, since I knew what I was taking inspiration from, gone and watched his video first to make sure that I wasn't just repeating the things that he was saying. And that's something I've tried to be better with in the future when I have taken inspiration from people. Like, for example, a couple weeks after that, I made a video about D&D and mental health. This was directly inspired by ADHDM. And I put him in the thumbnail, not the thumbnail, I put him in the description of the video. And I'm pretty certain I even shout him out within the video itself. And on top of that, a really funny thing happened. I was writing a skit for the intro of that video, And I realized halfway through writing it that I was just taking a joke from ADHDM video and like changing it ever so slightly, and that it was basically copying again. So I like went through all of his videos, like checked his skits, and then like really tried to put together something where it's like, okay, this is entirely my own joke. And I genuinely believe I came up with something that was much funnier than what I would have created if I hadn't gone through that effort of making sure that what I was making was original. There are some people who would say that if I unintentionally take an idea, then it isn't really stealing. However, from my perspective, that the only way you can know that I didn't do it intentionally is that if you trust my word on it, is that if you believe me, then you know it wasn't stolen. However, if I consistently make that mistake of accidentally taking someone's work, then you don't really have any good reason to believe me. So it's important that I make sure that I'm not making those mistakes, so that way when eventually those things do happen, because there's always that opportunity to miss some things, that there's evidence of me being consistently original, and this was probably just like two minds thinking alike. But let's move on to the next video. The thing about this one is that I'd always wanted to make it. What it was a video talking about what we could learn about D&D from Telltale's The Walking Dead. It talks about the choices in the game and how consequences are shown, and to this day, it's still one of my favorite videos. However, it is also one of my worst performing. In the end, it got 63 views, and it took a long time to get there. Now, I knew that the video wasn't going to do well, because like, how many people are in the sub niche of loving D&D and The Walking Dead? Not a lot. However, I didn't really realize just how bad it was gonna go, especially after I gained so many subs after that most recent video. I thought that there'd be more people willing to click on it because they liked the last one, but it flopping as hard as it did really like messed me up, because I just put in so much work into that video of like playing through the games, like looking through the choices, trying to come up with good arguments, that it really, really bummed me out when it didn't do well. I'd made the Walking Dead video with the idea in mind that the next video would be about running a zombie apocalypse in D&D. And so that way the two videos would coincide with each other and make for like a double feature type thing. However, seeing how bad the Walking Dead video did, I almost didn't want to release the zombie apocalypse video. The only reason I did was I figured that, hey, if people watch the zombie apocalypse video, there's a chance that they'll be interested and go back to the Walking Dead video. The zombie apocalypse video got 1,000 views. You would think that would make me happy. 1,000 views put it in my top 5 best performing videos at the time, but it really didn't. And that was because I saw it doing well, and I couldn't understand why it was good. With the Encounters video, the one that got 19,000 views, I knew it was a good video when I released it. It just did a lot better than I thought it would. But for the zombie apocalypse video, I thought the thumbnail was bad. I thought the topic, I saw the Walking Dead one, I assumed that it must have been on the same level, but for some reason it did so much better. And on top of that, it didn't bring anybody to the Walking Dead video, which really frustrated me. I would literally stare at my screen and look at my videos and try to figure out, why was this working? Why wasn't this working? What makes people click on this but makes people not want to click on this? Why is this a good topic? Why is this a bad one? Why does YouTube give this video with a low click-through rate and a low watch time more impressions than this other video with a high click-through rate and a high watch time? I'm gonna warn you now, it's this part of the story where things are gonna get dark for a bit. I don't want to lie to you and act like everything was fun and awesome and amazing when it wasn't. It'd be a disservice to my own story. If anything from this point on makes me sound like I'm a little bit of an asshole, I would agree with you. The only thing I can promise you is that there's a happy ending. So let's get through it. Next video comes out, 93 views. I couldn't get that thumbnail to work. I couldn't put the pieces together to make a new video, so I moved to the next one, which I released being inspired by a comment that someone made. I thought that would make people want to engage with the video more. It got 63 views. The next video was meant to be a companion to my combat video, and that got 330 views. However, at this point, because it wasn't where I wanted it to be, it wasn't another 1,000 view video, I wasn't happy with this. I was dissatisfied with having my views back to where they normally were. The next video I made was that mental health video I was talking about before, and it made sense. My channel was originally meant to be a mental health channel, so it seemed like a good idea to try to combine that topic with D&D. On top of that, I was watching ADHDM. This was one of the few videos where I actually did deep research into the topic I was discussing. I listened to audiobooks. I listened to other videos on the topic. I got other people who I knew who had experienced what I was talking about to read over my script and make sure what I was saying was accurate. When I had uploaded that video, I went to bed giddy because I thought that video would kill. I was sure this was going to be the video that was going to get me past that 500 subscribers, and that there was no way that it was going to get less than 500 views. It got 160. I felt devastated. There's no worse feeling in the world than putting in a ton of work into something and then feeling like you got no reward out of it. Now, when I just started my channel, 100 views or 300 views would have felt good, but at this point, I had seen the double digits, the tens of thousands of views that were possible, and I was just trying to recreate that. However, no matter what I did, I was getting views like I did when I had just started my channel. Hours of research and consulting people I trusted got less views than a video I made, literally posing a question to the audience and never giving an answer. At this point, when I'm uploading, I'm losing subscribers, which is the absolute worst feeling when you realize that the best thing you can do for your sub count is to not be creating anything. A couple videos later, as we got close to the end of the year, I finally hit 500 subscribers. I had gotten my goal, which you would think would have made me happy, but it didn't. Because I was losing subscribers so often, I was certain that by the time I'd actually reached the end of the year, that I would be sitting under 500 again because people would unsubscribe. So I was just stressing myself out, so worried about getting to at least 505 or 510 or 515, which would create a solid enough barrier to make sure that I wouldn't lose subscribers to the point where I'm below 500 again. So I am more stressed than I ever was before, when I should have been happy that I achieved what I had set out to achieve so many months ago. It's at this point in time that I decided I wanted to make a video on Moist Critical's actual play skill check. Since very early into my channel, I had the idea of doing review style videos of actual plays. I had come from film and I had written a lot of film reviews as a hobby, so I thought, hey, if I take that skill of reviewing media and putting it into actual plays, something that not anyone was doing or is doing, I thought that that would be an interesting thing. Again, I spent so much time on this video because on top of taking notes for it, recording, editing it, I also have to watch multiple episodes of an actual play. And actual plays are like hours long. I believe I did the math and I spent at least 20 hours on that video in that week, which may not sound like a lot, but you also have to remember, I'm also working 40 hours a week at the same time. In order to get it done, I was working on it literally every second that I had available. I had a Secret Santa party that I had to go to, and I was on the train listening to Skill Check, taking notes while I was going there because I couldn't afford to just let an hour go to waste where I wasn't doing anything. I was so proud of that video when it came out. And I'm pretty sure to this day, other than this video, it was the longest video I had ever released at 26 minutes long. I was so certain that something good would come out of this. I'd put so much work into it, and when you put in that much work, you're supposed to be rewarded for it. Now, this video did very quickly get 800 views and then eventually surpass 1,000 views, which is something that I should have been happy with. However, again, I wasn't. Because you see, the watch time on that video was abysmal. And I'm pretty certain for a long time, I had lost subscribers on that video, even though it had 1,000 views. It was like within 16 seconds, I think 40% of people had left, which is an insane speed to lose people in an intro which I thought was entertaining. I haven't gone back to do the math, but as of late December, I believe only 13 people out of that 1,000 had actually gotten to the very end of the video, which is bad. What I didn't realize at this point in time was I was becoming incredibly insecure in my work, and I basically found any reason to not like it. Instead of having value in something because I created it and I'm proud of the time that I've put into it, or I'm just proud of it because I think it's good, I find all these arbitrary reasons to essentially shut it down as bad. Oh, it didn't get the views that I wanted it to. Oh, it didn't get the click-through rate, or the watch time, or the subscriber boost. Oh, not enough people commented on it. There will always be something that would have made me unhappy. And because the YouTube algorithm is a black box of unknowingness, I never had anything to point to for my problems. Of course, what I needed to point to was myself, but I was always trying to point outwards. I was trying to look at, why is this thumbnail doing worse than that thumbnail? Why is this topic better than that topic? Why are people staying to watch this video but leaving that video? I was always trying to find reasons elsewhere of why things weren't working. However, none of those things were supposed to matter. The only thing that really needed to matter was whether or not I was happy with the video. And on top of that, I was developing an intense amount of jealousy. When I saw other small YouTubers and they were doing better than me, I checked their oldest video to make sure that they had been uploading longer than me, so I could explain why. It's like, oh, well, they got to get views off of the OGL, or they've just been doing it for a year extra longer than me, that's why they're doing better. And if someone had been making videos for less time than I had, and they had more views or more subs, it made me genuinely upset. My thought process literally was, how dare they get to be at the point where I am or beyond it without having to put in the effort that I had put in? Why do they get 100 views on their first video? Why don't they have to suffer with a 15 view video? The only reason I'm admitting this is to make sure I hold myself accountable to what I did, because this is embarrassing as hell. There was a point in time that I got so enraged that someone had been uploading for just a couple months and had already passed my subscriber count that I yelled at my monitor screen. No one was even home. There was no one to hear me. I was throwing a fit in this room right here because someone else was getting views and I wasn't. This is not someone I've ever spoken to. This wasn't someone I knew. This wasn't someone I had any reason to dislike. This is someone who just made good YouTube videos, and I was angry about that. At this point, I want to take a quick moment to shout out that YouTuber, which was Rogue's Roll Call. He makes really good YouTube videos. I recommend watching them if you have time. You never knew what happened, yet you still didn't deserve it. I hope you continue to make good content, and your channel deserves even more success than it's gotten. So everything I wrote in this part, I wrote on Christmas Eve of 2023. I was alone, I was going to see all my family the next day, and I kind of put this together to like culminate all my feelings. And in fact, while writing it, I kind of realized how much of an asshole I had been. Like I said before, my problem was never my analytics or my thumbnails or my topics or my videos. The problem was me. I need to be more confident in what I make and make it for myself, not anyone else. When I started the channel, I made videos like the ones that I was watching because I wanted to make things that I knew I would watch if I found it on YouTube. And I should go back to that. Don't make videos for the algorithm, not to make videos for any other viewer. I need to make videos for the type of viewer that I am. Make my own content. I don't make money off this, so at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether or not one person watches it or 1,000 people watches it. It doesn't actually have any impact on my life. I shouldn't be doing this because I want to build views. I should be doing this because I want to build skills in talking or writing or editing. Now, you are probably asking yourself at this point, if YouTube's making me unhappy, why don't I just quit? If I literally am feeling terrible about myself because of what I'm making, why am I continuing? I've allowed the pressures of arbitrary numbers to affect how I feel. The truth is that if I quit YouTube, I'm not changing myself for the better. I'm going to find a different hobby, and that's also going to make me miserable. Or if I don't find a hobby, I'm going to become miserable through something else because I have a flaw that I need to work on. Ever since I was young, I hated competitive games. Even now, I hate playing in ranked games because I hate seeing my rank go down when I lose a game. To me, the punishment of losing has always hurt more than the reward of succeeding. I enjoy Dungeons & Dragons because it's a game I can enjoy with my friends and not worry about winning or losing. It's not about being better than anybody. It's about working as a team. It's about telling a collective story. Even as a dungeon master, I'm never on the side of the monsters. I'm on the side of the players, and I want to see them succeed and fight through the challenges that I put in front of them. And I think that all stems from the lack of confidence in myself, but I also think it's something else. If I just thought that I wasn't good enough, then it would just be me sitting around being depressed, going, oh man, I wish that I was better at this, but I'm not. But no, there's an anger, a frustration. Despite what the evidence shows, I believed I deserved better, which is not the mentality of someone who succeeds or deserves to succeed. That mentality is of a spoiled brat who believes that they've done enough to be given the reward rather than going through the effort to continue to earn it. And that's not the person that I want to be. I want to be able to be the person who accepts a failure as is. When I put in the effort, if I put in a ton of effort into a YouTube video, like I'm doing with this one, and it doesn't do well, that's okay, because this video wasn't about getting a ton of views. It was about learning how to take a 10,000 word script and break it down into a YouTube video and be able to release it. And I believe part of that process of not focusing on view counts or statistics means that I can't set goals for myself anymore. Yes, I did actually hit my goal and have 500 subscribers when 2023 became 2024. However, if I set more goals for myself, that is more unnecessary pressure that hurts me more than it motivates me. If I put 1,000 hours into a video, my pride should have nothing to do with the analytics. It should be entirely based on the product that is the video. In the same way, if I take a 10,000 word script and then it becomes this YouTube video, well, I should be able to get pride in the fact that I was able to do that in a week and make something that I'm pretty happy with, or I at least hope I'm happy with. I haven't finished the video yet. but that's where the focus needs to be. It needs to not be in those numbers, it needs to be in creating. So funnily enough, when I started 2024, I had the idea of cutting down on how much content I was making, from once a week to once every other week. The first reason I wanted to do this was, well, I feel like I explained the reason why I might want to do this already. And the other reason was I wanted to do some higher concept videos, and sometimes that would take more than the regular schedule to complete. So I had this really big video idea. However, I knew that it would take just way too long to get done. So instead of going a month without uploading, I decided that I would work on smaller videos throughout and then release the big video at the end of the month. Unfortunately, that video won't ever come out. It's quite simply, I had an idea, I tried to execute the idea, and then as I was editing it, I realized that it just wasn't working in the way that I wanted it to. So instead of putting out something that was just an incomplete or unfinished idea, I took what I learned from that and I put it into a new idea, which that video still hasn't been finished, just because I know it's a big project and I wanted to get this video done first before working on it. However, there is a big video coming up in the future. However, because of this, because I was working on smaller videos that were quicker to make, I just kept uploading weekly. And something really cool actually came out of all of this. I learned to enjoy making videos a lot more. Firstly, I wasn't putting as much pressure on myself. I knew that these videos weren't trying to become my biggest videos. I wasn't putting too much weight onto them because I had weight on these bigger ideas. However, since those ideas never saw the light of day, I was just uploading without putting pressure on myself. And secondly, because I had that goal of reaching 500 subscribers by 2024, and it was now 2024, I didn't have another subscriber goal for myself. And I haven't given myself one. I'm also more willing to skip a week on a video if I'm busy with other life stuff, either playing lots of D&D or spending time with friends and family, or getting addicted to Helldivers 2. Now, to some people, they might hear all that and think that what I was doing was hurting this channel. I wasn't as dedicated to making sure a video got good views. I wasn't as hardworking and making sure I had a consistent upload schedule. I wasn't pushing myself to achieve new goals. To some people, they look at that and they think, how can you become more successful with that? But it was actually the opposite. I actually got a lot better, and I think the only reason the channel is still here is because I did all those things. Because I no longer felt the pressures of trying to build the YouTube channel, of trying to hit goals that I didn't really have a lot of control over, I enjoyed making videos so much more. And because of that, I feel like a lot of the stuff I made was just better. And when it wasn't as good, it didn't hurt me. It didn't make me feel bad if I released the video and it didn't get as much success as another video. Like, in the last 3 months, I had a period where I think I had 3 videos in a row surpass 1,000 views, which is the first time I've had that level of consistency. Which, that felt really cool that that happened. However, when the next week I got 200 views, and I think the week after that I got like 60 views, or my more recent video that got like 40 views, that doesn't affect me at all because I don't see that as a failure. I see that as a learning point. Funnily enough, not too long before recording this part of the video, I saw a YouTube short from Healthy Gamer talking about successes and failures, and how for a lot of people, when they get a test back and they see a fail, they see that as the end point of they worked to the test and then they failed and now they're a failure. And then there's some people who work up to the test, see the failure, and then see that as a step to the next test and getting a higher mark on that one. And I really think that's where my mentality has shifted. I used to work really, really hard on a video, and when that video didn't do as well as I wanted it to, I used to view it as all of that work being for nothing. Now, if I put a lot of work into a video and it doesn't do well, I see that as, oh, well, I learned all of this about editing, or I figured out this one problem that I had been having. And so I know that while this video didn't do well, that future videos are going to be better because of this one. Every week, I probably spend 5 to 10 hours working on a YouTube video. And if I'm releasing 10-minute YouTube videos, that means that I'm potentially spending 60 times more time working on a video than you are watching it. And if that's the case, then I should probably be enjoying it the most because I'm the one who has to spend the most time with it. So that brings us to today. I am still a very, very, very small YouTuber. However, I have a lot of cool things that have happened since I started uploading. A lot of YouTubers who I like and watch have commented on my videos and told me that they enjoyed them, which is the craziest thing that's ever happened to me. I have videos on my channel that have thousands and even tens of thousands of views, which is absolutely something that I never thought would ever happen to me. And I feel like for some people, they would look at everything I've done and all of the work that I've put in to get to this point, and they would say, oh, he's probably not worth listening to when it comes to YouTube. It's probably more worth listening to someone who has had a lot of success. And I don't necessarily believe that's the case. Because in reality, if you start uploading videos today, in a year, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to be about where I am, or even lower. You might blow up and be at tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of subscribers. However, for the majority of people, if you put the work in, you probably are going to be at a similar level to me. However, most people are never going to get that far. Most YouTube channels that get made with people having the ideas of growing and being a super big YouTuber quit within the first month. And that's because a lot of them just don't have the right mentality to continue doing YouTube without seeing major success. And the truth about YouTube is that you can't control whether or not you grow within your first month or your first year. While YouTube is a lot of skill and being good at making videos and knowing what's good for the algorithm, another huge part of it is just being lucky. When people say YouTube is both skill and luck, that luck part usually means not just uploading one video and then seeing if it succeeds or fails. It means uploading consistently enough that you hope that one day you just get the right video out at the right time in the right algorithm, and then that helps take it off. I know for some of my biggest videos that if I look at where people have clicked from, it just so happens that around the time I uploaded my video, that a bigger YouTuber talked about a very similar topic, which helped my video a lot. So I cannot tell you how to get 1 million subs or 1 million views. However, I can tell you what you need to do if you want to keep the right mentality to keep doing YouTube consistently. The first thing I recommend is make what you enjoy. If you want to be a YouTuber, probably the reason is that you watch a lot of YouTube. So look at the people who you're watching. Look at essentially your inspiration. And the videos that you're making should be in a similar line to what they're making. If you're making videos that you would want to watch, it's a lot easier to spot the problems with it that you might not necessarily notice if you're making videos in a field or a style that you don't normally have interest in. For me, I have YouTube on basically all of the time. When I'm working, when I'm playing video games, when I'm cooking, I'm always listening to different YouTube videos, which means for me, I know that when I put on a YouTube video, it's mostly a listening experience. So I try to do the same thing in my videos. I try to avoid having super important information to just be little title cards. I try to focus on the little things that make it a better audio experience. In a lot of my videos at the start, I do this zoom in, fade to black thing. And the reason I do that is because I watched a Stan's video and I caught that he did that at the beginning and I went, oh, I like that, I'm gonna copy that. And that's what you should be doing for your videos. It doesn't have to be in the same topic of video that you're watching, but if you see a video and you like a part of the audio or the visuals or the editing, and you want to take something from that, take inspiration and put it into your thing, you should totally do that. That's the best way to get good at what you do. Find things that you like and just use them for your own. Obviously, don't steal someone's writing, but if you see a cool idea for a video and you think, hey, I want to try this on my own spin, take my own personal take on this idea, take it. And if you're ever worried that your ideas might be too similar to the video that you're taking from, the best thing you can do is to just always say, hey, I'm taking inspiration from this person. The biggest thing I regret about my video Building Compelling Encounters is that I didn't just say from the beginning, this video is inspired by Bob World Builder's video. The next thing I recommend is to enjoy making. You don't know how long it's going to take to reach the point where you can start making money on YouTube. It could be months, it could be years, and it doesn't make sense to treat YouTube as a full-time job that you don't really like, but you do it for the money when there's zero money in it. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to love every part of the process. For me, I hate the recording part of videos because I'm just not very good at talking and I slip over my words a whole bunch and it causes me to have to restart recording segments over and over and over again. However, I really enjoy the script writing parts where I get to write about Dungeons and Dragons and all the things I like about it. And I really like editing the videos together, especially once I have all the clips together and I can add fun little segments to it. However, if you find that there's just one part of the process that you absolutely despise and it makes you not want to do the other parts, potentially find someone else who would be willing to help out with that. Unfortunately for recording, I kinda have to do this as it's my channel. However, if you don't like editing, especially if you're young, you can probably find someone who wants to get started with editing and you can bring them on and just have them edit what you record and then put their name either at the end of the video or the description. You also have the option to pay someone to edit for you. However, I imagine if you're just starting off as a YouTuber, you don't really want to be investing into it. And the final and most important piece of advice is to just upload. It doesn't matter if you have the best microphone or the best camera or the best setup, best lighting. It doesn't matter if you have a good idea or not. The most important thing is to just start creating. Since I started this channel, the only thing that I've spent money on is a $40 microphone stand. Everything else I use is something that I already had. Now, it just so happens that I had a really good microphone and some solid cameras and a really good tripod. However, you don't need those things to start making stuff. In fact, I do not recommend spending money on a camera or a microphone or lights until you have dedicated a serious amount of time to doing YouTube that you know that you're going to continue to want to do this. By getting used to uploading videos and having some sort of schedule, whether it's once a week, once every other week, once a month, and just getting used to putting yourself out there and having people comment and having people like and dislike, that those are the big things that can help you in the long term. Even if the stuff that you made is terrible and you have to private all those videos, that's fine. Just private those videos if you don't want them up anymore. Because the reality is, the first YouTube video you're ever gonna make is gonna suck. It's gonna suck really bad. In fact, in pretty much everything you do in life, the first time you do it, you're gonna be really bad at it. The more and more you work at something, the less and less bad you get at it. And eventually, if you keep it up, whether it takes months or years, you're gonna eventually make something that's pretty damn good. If you're still watching this video, I understand that you're probably asleep, so I'm gonna try to not talk too loud so you can get your rest. I just wanted to say that I am so appreciative of anyone who watches this video, especially if you've made it to this point. This isn't like the type of videos I make. This doesn't really have anything to do with D&D other than the fact that I am a D&D YouTube channel, and I feel like anyone who cares enough to watch me talk for over an hour about myself and allows me to get this personal, I just think that's really, really cool. I consider it a privilege that anyone cares enough about me and what I have to say to listen in to me talk about Dungeons and Dragons. I know that if 12-year-old me could look at what I'm doing now and see that after all this time that I actually am making YouTube videos and saw 500 subs, you'd probably think that that was super cool. And I know that 500 subs, I mean, you think about it, oh, there's people with tens of millions of subscribers. What is 500 mean to anybody? But it means something to me. No one was forced to hit that subscribe button. All of those 500 people looked at what I was making and decided that they wanted more of it. And that's just absolutely wonderful. And if you want to be a part of that group of people who cares what I have to say, the subscribe button's right there. I don't think I'll be making a year 2 video because hopefully there won't be as many interesting things to talk about. But, I mean, we'll always see. I'm always here to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. And, yeah, thank you for watching. And this is the end of the video.